Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. So today we're using our garden tomatoes and we are making up some barbecue sauce. So the first ingredient you're gonna need is 10 pounds of tomatoes. We are using, it's about a quarter bushel by the way. So we are using paste tomatoes, and what you're gonna do with every tomato, you've got your end, and on the other end, you're gonna use a knife and you're going to put an X into it. This is so that we can peel them, because these 10 pounds need to be peeled and then cored and then cut into quarters. I'll show you what that looks like at the end, but make those cross in every single one of these tomatoes. You're going to use a boiling pot of water, and we are going to dunk each one in for about 60 seconds and then do a really quick cold plunge and then into a strainer. And what that's basically going to do is the X, or the score on the top, is going to allow that hot water to get into underneath the peel of the tomato and basically loosen itself. The cold plunge is just so that we can move it over and strain it and touch it. So I can show you what that looks like. And then after you plunge each one and peel off the skins of these 10 pounds of tomatoes, at that point, we are going to take the cores out and slice them into quarters and put them into a big stock pot. Now let's go review what the other ingredients you need are after I just show you quickly. So you're gonna put those in, just as I said, no big deal. And we're gonna leave them in there for about 60 seconds. Okay, so after about 60 seconds, see how it's cracked? Now plunge that into some cold water, and it doesn't have to plunge for long. It's immediately gonna come out, and we're just gonna leave that in the strainer, and that can just sit there until we're done and ready to peel them all. So you can see the skin just slips right off. And now we are going to take that tomato, cut off the end, the hard end, and now you want to core it. So this is the way we do it. You can do it whatever way you want, but we're taking all the sides off. You've got your core left from it. And then we're just slipping the seeds out to make life easier, so we don't have to run this through a food mill later. This is so you don't have to run it through that stupid food mill, because that's a lot of work. So once you've done this and taken out all those seeds, you're going to continue to chop it up. And we're chopping them into smaller pieces. Now I'm measuring them out as we go, because we're looking for about 20 cups to put into our stock pot. So about quarter bushel, like I said, 10 pounds-ish, but make sure you've got the 20 cups. So what I've been doing is I've kept that hot water boiling in case I have to add a couple more tomatoes here and there. And then we're going to transfer that 20 cups to the stock pot, and I will show you the other ingredients that's going to finish off this recipe. Okay, so the other ingredients you're going to need are 2 cups of finely chopped onion. You can use whatever kind of onion you want. I'm using a white onion, and I did these in the food processor so that they're nice and minced and will cook down very easy. So 2 cups of those, 3 cloves of minced garlic, a 1/3 cup of lemon juice that can be either fresh or bottled, your choice. And then you're going to need a cup of white vinegar, a 1.5 cups of lightly packed brown sugar, just a dark brown sugar. And then we've got a plate of spices over here. So here we have a tablespoon of celery seed, 2 tablespoons of salt, a 1.5 tablespoons of nutmeg. You can use mace if you have it. I don't, so I'm using nutmeg. A tablespoon of dry mustard, and then a teaspoon of both cinnamon and powdered ginger. So what we're going to do now is we've got those tomatoes on a stove in their crock pot. And by crock pot, I meant stock pot, as you can see here. So we've got that in here, and I've got the stove on high. We are going to add all of the onion, all of the 3 cloves of minced garlic, and then this part we're just going to add that tablespoon of the celery seed in there. Nothing else as of yet, just the celery seed. So we're going to mix that all together very well. And the stove is on high, and we're incorporating it all, and we're gonna bring this up to a boil. So keep stirring frequently and mixing that all together just to make sure nothing burns to the bottom. But you will see this liquid starting to form and it's going to come to a boil. That's when we can move on. Okay, so at this point we are boiling. So you know this because when we give it a stir, it continues to bubble. So now we are going to turn our stove down to a low medium, and we're going to let this simmer until all of the vegetables are nice and soft. So that's going to take about half an hour. So don't forget to come and stir every few minutes just to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. We're also going to throw a lid on this as it simmers. So lid on, simmer for about half an hour. I like this. So as you can see, it is nice and cooked down and soft now. So at this point, we are going to transfer it into a blender. Now you're going to need either like a glass bowl or some other type of container to put the liquid that you've pureed up, because you're going to want to have it all pureed up. You can't really put it back in the stock pot each time, otherwise you're going to be blending the same thing over and over again. So puree it up, put it in a side container, and then we will transfer it back to the pot. So I'm just going to ladle in my tomatoes. I've got the mixture ready to go, and I'm just going to start it. I find that milkshake or smoothie works really good to blend this kind of stuff down. So we're going to go ahead and put it on that setting. So as you can see, it's piping hot once it's all pureed up. But at this point, we're just going to put that to the side and continue on with this pureeing process until it's all done. Okay, I have returned this mixture to the saucepan, and we are going to bring it to a boil. And once it's to a boil, we are going to cook it until it goes down about a quarter. So we're cooking down about a quarter way. If you've never done that before, it's not really going to make sense. What you're kind of looking for in the pot is, see where it's currently sitting, this line here, all the way around the edge. We're looking till that, like, it cooks down and the mixture sits lower in the pot. So just about a quarter way. So if you're looking in your pot, in this pot here, see my spoon? I'm going to want it to go down a quarter of that spoon. So I'll show you what I mean once we get there. This will probably take about an hour. We've got about another 2 hours to go in this process. It is quite the long process, but this is really good barbecue sauce. So get this to a boil, continue to cook down. You can cover it or leave it uncovered, totally up to you. I'm going to cover it because I don't want any splash, but keep it at a continuous boil. Stir once in a while so nothing's sticking to the bottom until you get it down a quarter way. I will show you what that looks like. Okay, so it's actually been about half an hour. It did it quicker this time. And we are see it was about here when we started. It is cooked down. When I put my spoon in, it's cooked down on the spoon. So that has cooked down about a quarter way. I am now going to add all of the other ingredients. So my cup of vinegar, my 1/3 cup of the lemon juice, that 1.5 cups of brown sugar, and all of the other spices that were on that plate. So we're gonna mix that in there. Smells good. We're still keeping this on high because we want to return this back to a boil and then boil it gently for about half an hour. So I've got this in here. Once it starts bubbling a full rolling boil, turn it down to low and do like a low, medium, slimmer, light boil. I'll show you what that looks like once we'll get there, just so you kind of have an idea. So this is a nice gentle boil, and we're gonna keep it that way for about half an hour. Stir occasionally just so nothing's sticking to the bottom. You don't have to stand over it and hover for half an hour. And while this is going, we are going to get our jars sterilized and our boiling canner going, just the water bath. And I just wanted to note that this recipe calls for about 3 to 4 pint jars. We are going to do 1/2 pint jars, and we're gonna do about 7 to 8 of those. So go ahead and get your jars ready and your lids going, and we will see you in about half an hour to can everything up. So it's been half an hour that this is cooking down. We are in a good spot, good consistency. Our water is boiling in our canner, so we are good to can these up into our sterilized jars. So all we're gonna do is ladle these in like you would any other canning recipe. We're ladling these into our hot jars. And for these ones, we're leaving 1/2 inch of head space. We're just going to use a knife or a chopstick, whatever you have. Make sure the air bubbles are out. And then we are going to use a damp or wet cloth or paper towel. And we're wiping the rim down so that there's no debris and we can get that good seal. Grabbing a warm lid, throwing it on top, and then we're throwing on a band, and you're wanting to do the band fingertip tight. You don't want to over tighten it because then that can create siphoning on the lid inside of the canner. So we're going to get these all filled, and then we're going to throw them in that boiling water canner. Okay, so we've dropped them down into our boiling water canner. So if you are doing full pint jars, we are going to process them for 20 minutes. If you're doing those little jam jars, the half pints, you only have to process them for about 10 because it's half the jar, half the time. So let's see what we get when we're done. Okay, so we are done canning up our barbecue sauce. So I ended up with this recipe getting way more than usual. I'm not really sure exactly what happened. Maybe we just had meatier tomatoes this time. But anyways, I always say plan for more when you are sterilizing your jars. I always over sterilize, like more jars and more lids just in case of a situation like this. When I did the pizza sauce, like I got double the amount because I don't even know. Anyways, moral of the story is I got 7 of the jam jars or half pints, and I ended up getting 4 of the pints as well. So obviously, like I said, I did these for 20 minutes and then I did these ones for 10 minutes. So as you can see, I've got a bottle of barbecue sauce beside here. So as you can see, it's very similar. This is Diana's Gourmet Honey Garlic. Very similar in color, very similar in smell. Difference is, you go to the back of one of these bad boys and you're talking Chemical City, like a high fructose corn syrup, may contain wheat, fish. What? Cleaner, much cleaner. Definitely better for you. So keep that in mind when you are making this barbecue sauce. Yes, it's work, but that's kind of the whole point of canning food, is it's cheaper, it's better for you, and you know where it's coming from. But anyways, we will talk to you in the next canning tutorial or next garden video. Bye.